Hello everybody, RegiTime here, and today we're going to be looking at some hands that I played on 888 last night and this morning. There's some 30 NL from last night and 10 NL from this morning. Please don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoy the content, and share and join the Facebook group and all of those things. And yeah, before we get started, I guess I should comment on an email I got from Sky recently. I got it on Wednesday. It's Friday now. And they basically asked me to cease and desist making videos using their intellectual content, which I guess means images of their tables and things. They've said it's because I'm giving away players' betting patterns and bet styles, etc. I think that's bullshit. I mean, how many people make videos on YouTube, on Twitch, and don't hide names and things? I think it's more likely that some whiny little regs complained, and they probably play a lot more rake than me, and Sky have said, fuck you, we don't like you much anyway, so please stop doing it. Someone very kindly posted to Sky forums asking for them to retract this, and then I got some good support on there, and then some whiny little fuckwits complained about my swearing. Which I think might also be an issue that Sky don't like. I haven't got a fucking clue, but I'm not going to be dictated to by sites saying what I can and can't do. If they're saying I can't do it, then I can't do it. I'm not going to go and crawl up people's asses and what have you. So for the time being, I've decided not to play on Sky. I mean, if they're going to be like that, I don't need to be giving them my rake. Not that I pay much rake anyway. Yeah, I'm moving away from some good games, but I have a very good record in Snap games too. So for the time being, I'm going to be playing on 888 until this is either resolved or ended and the Sky saying no, you still can't do it. And then if that's the case, then so be it. We'll just continue playing Zoom for the time being, and not Zoom, Snap, sorry, and just see what happens. It's frustrating. It's a little bit annoying. There's been an awful lot of fucking virtue signalling in the Sky forums about swearing and fucking, and people going on to how it might affect people with poor mental health. It's just all fucking nonsense. There's just a lot of people around who just whatever. I don't know. The world's too sanitized, or they want the world to be too sanitized. I mean, offence. It's a personal thing, isn't it? It's what you might find offensive, or what I might find offensive, somebody else might not find offensive, and vice versa. And I just think, fuck it. If people are going to be so upset about swearing, it's quite simple. You hear me swearing, don't watch my videos. I don't really get what complaining achieves, but anyways, fuck it. That's what's happened. It's where we're at. It's a little bit irritating because Sky is full of a lot of monster fish, and I've made some good money on there since the middle of June, since I started kind of needing to play to back up my wages after what happened at work. We've had a good month. I made nearly £1,000 in since the middle of June or the start of June. So it's disappointing to move away from that. Excuse me. But I'm very confident that we can make a similar hourly rate on 888 on Snap. The games are a bit tougher, but we get increased volume, so they kind of balance each other out. If I had a choice, I'd probably rather still be doing what I was doing on Sky, but that choice has kind of been taken away from me, and I basically can't be asked negotiating with fuckwits. So, we're not going to be on Sky for at least the short term. I might play there from time to time if the games are good, but there won't be much content coming from Sky. So, apologies to those of you who like it. Apologies to those Sky players who enjoy it. But what can we do? If you're not happy, then go and find the thread in the Sky forum. It was started by G. Barrett's in the poker chat. It's not a very busy forum, so it'll be somewhere near the top. Go there, add your 2 cents. Excuse me. Add your 2 cents. Hopefully, you maybe might help me nudge Sky into stopping, into stopping asking me to cease and desist. But I'm not expecting a positive outcome from this. So anyway, all that being said, let's get on with these hands that we played in the last 24 hours. So we're starting up here with the suited ace queen. We're taking stats off. Stats are probably going to come up on the next time. We're going to keep taking them off because they're not relevant, because it's very rare I know anything about these players. For example, at this table, I only know this player who's a bigger net than me, and this player who's pretty loose aggressive. The rest, complete strangers to me. So stats, we don't have stats at Snap games. There's no point having stats when we're reviewing them, really. So we open under the gun. As we do, we get 3-bet by someone who hasn't got 100 big blinds. I typically associate these guys to have relatively strong ranges when they're 3-betting, but there's also some of these fish that just decide, oh well, I've got 9-8 suited, I'm going to re-raise it. We don't know much about them. I expect it to be relatively strong here, but ace queen's going to be way too strong to fold. So we do call. And we get a flop that's going to eventually end up with us getting all the money in. I mean, if it goes by the form book here, we check, he bets, we either jam or raise, if it, depending on his bet size. If he was to bet, say, just $2, we'd maybe raise to 7 and call it off or whatever. If he bets big, we're probably just going to jam over him. Yeah, we're going to be up against aces, kings, queens some of the time, but we block queens, we block aces. We're doing fine against kings. We got reasonable equity against kings with the dead money already in the pot, so yeah, there's not going to be much to be said about this, I wouldn't imagine. Now I remember. Yeah, so he's gone all in here. When I see these bets, I look at them two ways. It's either somebody who's just like scared of the board and just like fucking jamming over pairs like 8s, 9s, 10s and things. They've seen no ace, no king. They like their over pair, let's go. If they have got a hand worse than 2 queens, then we're clearly getting the right price here just to stick it in. We're not loving it, but we know we're going to be a coin flip against his over pairs that are low, that like jacks and lower. If he's got a hand like ace king that's just doing this, then we're getting the right price to call it off too, given that we've got like 12 outs against ace king. So yeah, this thing, it's not a nice situation. I hate just calling my money off with a draw, but with a draw as strong as this, it just seems very standard just to get it in. And we get there on the river, and he had 2 queens. About his play, I mean, obviously we can't hate it because he's managed to get it all in as a small favourite versus my hand. But it's not the right way to play queens. He should just bet a normal size and just call it off when I jam or what have you. His play's not great. Our play's just kind of, we can't help it. Once we call, we see that flop, we're just going to have to, like, if he does what he does, we have to call it off. If he bets, we have to raise, etc. So yeah, pretty boring hand to begin with. Apologies about that. I just marked the hands. I haven't looked back at any of them. So yeah, maybe that isn't the most interesting of hands to start with, but there we go. Get off. Stance. Get off. I have to do that every hand, I'm afraid. So, alright, so this time we start with an 8-9 suited. We raise versus another unknown in the blinds. He calls. We flop a gut shot on a flush draw, which is a really good flop for us. This is a mandatory c-bet. We have no showdown value, but we have like very good equity versus his range. I'd like to see myself c-bet at least 120 here, maybe even bigger, 150. Wouldn't argue with the pot size bet either. So yeah, that's what I hope we do. 120, slightly on the small size. Don't hate it, of course. Could have gone bigger for sure though. He calls. We now add a pair. So like now the question is, do we continue betting? Obviously on the flop we're bluffing. You know, we want him to fold a better hand, but now we beat some of his range. So do we necessarily keep betting here now? Can we bet for value from 7x? Can we bet value for 5x? Can we get value from some draws? I mean, not really many spade draws, but we block them. I think we should probably check. If we bet here and get raised, then it just puts us in a nasty spot where we just kind of have to call because we got pair, flush draw, gut shot, etc. I think I prefer just checking here and probably calling bets of more size. It's obviously not over bets. Maybe we fold to over bets, but if he bets anything from like half pot to pot or whatever, I think we just have to call. If he bets really small, we can either call or raise. But again, I think it's just a very, very standard check call situation. If we hadn't hit the 8, if we'd hit, say, a 10 or something instead, then I think betting a game would be clearly the best play. We would improve our equity. We still have some forward equity versus 7x, 5x, etc. But yeah, I think check calls the play here this time. You do check. He bets half pot. And it's just like a pretty easy call, isn't it? We're getting really good odds. If we are behind, we're getting good odds. If we're ahead, then, you know, we just nice easy call. And we river everything. We river the straight and the flush. And this is a situation where I used to check very close to 100% all the time. You're looking to like catch bluffs. But I think the game's, I don't know if it's changed, I don't know what's going on, I don't know if I used to play this wrong by checking. But I just see so many checkbacks now on the river with like 2 pairs here, with sets, with top pairs. It's just going to be really hard for him to, I mean, he can bluff, of course, if he's just been like floating with something, I don't know what. And maybe he turns a queen into a bluff if we bet, but he might call with a queen anyway. I think it's just one of those spots where we just need to bet, because he's just going to check through so often. It's going to be a bet fold. I think we need to bet pretty big to get value from his sets, from his 2 pairs. Who knows, maybe he has a 4 sometimes, like 5-4 or something like that. Very unlikely he has a 4. But I just think if we check here, it's going to check through way too often. And we're just going to miss too much value. Yeah, we deny him the opportunity to bluff, but we get called so often by like 2 pairs and things that I think we just need to bet. And we need to bet pretty big. If we bet too small, it might incentivize him to raise, and then we have to call. But I don't think people bluff raise enough on the river to justify that. It feels like we need to call because we bet small, maybe we induce something. But I don't necessarily think that people then go on to raise as often as we might want them to think that they do. So I think this is like another really easy decision. Bet pretty big. I won't want to see myself betting less than like $6 here. And then just see what happens. If he raises, it's a grim spot. If he calls, then we're going to win, probably. Win or chop. Bit on the small side, but it's getting up there, isn't it? It's chunky enough. He calls, so we're going to win, you would imagine. And he had the queen 9, so he had the straight. If he didn't have the queen 9, if he had like queen 8, queen 7, well, yeah, all those 2 pairs are probably going to call too, are they? I'm not sure. Grim spot for him rivering the straight there. But I think the interesting part of that hand is, do we check or bet the river? And I think way too many players just check there, like wanting to bluff catch and not get blown off their hand to a raise. Whereas I personally think maybe bet folding pretty big as well is going to be a way better line long term. We're going to make more money with a bet fold than we are with a check, one would imagine. Just start to get off. 2 queens here. Limper under the gun. We isolate pretty big. 5x. He calls. We get a not ideal flop. I mean, very likely we still have the best hand, but chances of getting decent value from our hand now are going to be quite slim. We maybe get 1 street, possibly 2, depending on how we decide to size it. And opponent checks. I think checking back here is going to be probably the best play. If he is in there with a hand like pocket 7s, pocket 6s, etc., maybe he calls 1 street, but he's just going to fold a lot of the time. And if we're ahead here, we're going to stay ahead most of the time. You know, the only thing that might catch up with is if he's got like a king jack and a king comes. But I mean, what's that, like 12% or something on the turn? I think checking back here, it's kind of like, we're not like way ahead, way behind spot. If we are way ahead, then we're not going to get called very often. If we're way behind, then we could do keeping the pot a bit smaller. So I think checking back should be the play. Who knows? Maybe I'm going to bet because he has a limp call. Maybe we can get, maybe at the time I was thinking we can get some value on some small bets. But I think overall, I'd like to see myself check here. That's what I do. Turns a 9. Our opponent leads out for a full pot size bet, which isn't nice. But at the same time, our hand's under-repped to a degree. Not massively under-repped, you know, because we're going to be checking back a lot of like pocket kings, pocket queens, pocket jacks here. But we certainly can't fold for 1 bet. River is an offsuit 3. Might use rainbow board, so the suit's irrelevant. And opponent now checks. And when fish do this, and I'm presuming this guy's a fish, I think once they start betting the race, they're going to continue betting their ace on the river too. And it's very unlikely that he's going to be like checking an ace. Maybe if he's limp called with a hand like ace 5, maybe that's a hand he'll go check, bet, check with, looking to bluff catch. But I think the question is here, do we just check back or do we try and get some value from, well, I guess anything, 8x, 9x, specifically 9x, I guess. Pocket 10s, maybe. Maybe pocket 7s flicks a call in if he's like super sticky. Who knows? But I think the question is, do we bet or do we check? What would I like to see myself do? I think checking's going to be too weak. I think we need to bet, but bet pretty small. I mean, what was he going to fall to a raise? Bet around 1/3 part, around $3 or something here. Maybe seems pretty good to me. And he calls, and he had the 8-9. So yeah, I think that the crucial point of that hand on the, well, not crucial, but the interesting part of that hand is, do we value bet the river thinly or not? And I think again, it's like the last hand. Bet fold is a line. It's something we talked about on and off on the channel, how people don't like bet folding rivers. It's even harder when you're when you're in position and you can just like check back and guarantee yourself a showdown. But I think there's definitely a bet here. I think we only ever get raised if we're beat. I don't think many fish are creative enough to like have a hand like Jack 10 here and bet turn check raise river as a bluff. So I think like betting here small and folding to a raise is the best line. And yeah, that one worked out too. Hmm. 10-7. Not one of my usual holdings that we look at in videos. Player limps the button. We check in the big blind. Flop top pair. Could just lead out here. Do I like leading? I think I do, probably. There's just lots of like worse hands can call us here. Like if he's limping pocket pairs, if he's limping suited connectors, he can have some gut shots and things like that. So I think we should probably lead. We don't. He checks back. Turn king. Leading is less. And I mean, I'm not even sure. Look at this hand. Is it coming as a mistake? Let's just skim through it and see. Queen on the river. Nothing much we can do. Check, check. I'm not sure why this was made. Ah, that's why it's made it in. Yeah, I put it in. I should have remembered, really. I put it in because of just how amusingly our opponent played. He limped the button with ace king. He flops 2 overs and a flush draw, does not bet. He turns top pair with the nut flush draw, does not bet, and he does not bet the river. Yeah, it's going to be hard to lose when you've got players like Luke Walston, H in your games. And yeah, nothing strategic to learn from this. I guess I just put that one in because I probably thought it was a little bit amusing. Righty, so here's a 10-NL session this morning. I just briefly played the 10-NL session this morning just to try and find a few more hands to pad out the video. I guess when I'm playing on 888, 13L just doesn't run in the mornings. So if I do have spare time in the mornings, I guess we're just going to have to play some 10-NL to like pass time, make a little bit of extra money on the side. Yeah, I'm not super enthused by 10-NL, but at the same time, it's better than sitting around twiddling my thumbs. So yeah, I guess 10-NL is going to be my morning game, 13L is going to be my evening game. So a player raises the button. He was playing at quite a lot of, like, he turned up a lot of the tables, so I'm going to presume this guy was multi-table. It's probably a regular that I'm not aware of. We obviously defend the king 7, flop top pair. Super standard check call. Again, a very easy check call, I guess. There's some bluffs he can have, some like spade draws, maybe just double barreling because he has like pretty decent range advantage here versus us. So yeah, it's an easy check call again. He bets 2/3 pot, but what can we do? He can have jack queen, spade draws, some gut shots like ace queen, ace jack, that type of thing. And check call again. And that's not a great river. If he has been barreling nut flush draws, he's got there. If he's had jack queen, he's got there. He can just have like double barreling, like we said, his ace jacks, his ace queens, it's now just got there too. All in all, it's a pretty bad river. We just hope it goes check check here and somehow we win, but mostly we're just going to be check folding, I guess. He bets pretty big. I think paying off here would be a big mistake. Yeah, it doesn't look like we have a king very often. He could just be having a hand like 8-9 suited or something that's doing this. 7-8 suited, 5-4. So he does definitely have some bluffs here. I just think with the ace hitting the river, we just don't need to be calling down with our kings. Maybe we do. Maybe if we have a slightly stronger king, I'm not sure, because then maybe he's not value betting a king on the river, is he? Yeah, I just think it's a fold, paying off in this spot. When people triple barrel here, they are going to be quite polarised. But I just think it's people underbluff in these games. I guess that's my overall read on these games is people underbluff, especially not triple barrel bluffing. And if we are getting triple barrel bluffed here off second pair no kicker, then so be it. I think we should fold here. I'm getting really good at just not calling in these situations, so I'm very confident that I'm going to fold, and we do. And yeah, I think it's annoying because we've got check called twice with top pair, and then he's got a really good bluff card on the river. We've had to fold to him. But I think if we go around just like paying off in them situations regularly, we're really going to damage our win rate long term. That is my stupid alarm clock going off. I'm up way before my alarm, which was a good thing because it's nice to wake up naturally, but it's a bad thing because it might restrict my ability to grind tonight because I'll be fucking cream cracker by the time I get home from work. Next hand, Queen 10 suited. So we have an under the gun raise from someone who I suspected was a regular, can't be sure, but he was one of these that was turning up regularly at the table. Sometimes he was on more than one table, so he's definitely multi-tabling. We have an interesting pre-flop situation here. We can just call. We can think about folding, but even by my standards, that seems insanely nitty. Or we can squeeze. I'm not sure. Neither seem nice. Calling, then we're out of position with just queen high, albeit a nice suited queen. Squeezing, do we get that many folds? I'm not sure. Versus under the gun in middle position. And if we do get called, then we're going to be like pretty badly dominated, one would imagine. Let's go ahead and see what we can do. See what we do. I think I maybe prefer calling. But if I remember correctly, I think I squeezed here. And we did. We made it 14.5 blinds versus the 2.5x open, which might seem like it's a pretty large bet versus a 2.5x, but there are two players in the pot. And we are representing a pretty strong hand. We do want folds. I've been doing it a lot lately, talked about on previous videos about like making my 3 bets and my squeezes pretty big when I'm going to be out of position, just to encourage the folds more than anything. Because more often than not, we're going to be wanting a fold here. When we've got aces, we've got kings, we don't want a fold. But if we maybe even queens, when we've got jacks, when we've got ace, king, ace, queen, queen 10 suited, king, queen suited, stuff like that, we kind of just want folds. If we get called, then we've got a pretty hand that we can take to post flop. If we get 4-bet, we can fold. But yeah, I think we need to... I see too many players, in my opinion, making 3 bets and squeezes and things that are just way too small from the blinds. And you don't, in my opinion, the juice sizes are never going to get them enough folds. Because they think they want action. You go, king, queen suited, let's 3-bet, get some action. But mostly don't. Most of the time in pre-flop situations, unless you have like aces, kings, queens, maybe ace, king suited, maybe not even ace, king suited, maybe we just want folds with most of our 3-bets. It seems weird, but if we get a fold, if we have, say we don't have queen 10 here, say we have ace, queen instead, I'm still happy with the folds. We're still getting people, we're still denying equity to our opponents. If we were to get one call here, we'd have anything from like, 30 odd to maybe 50% equity at best, maybe slightly more occasionally. And then we're going to be out of position and not realise all that equity. So I think it's nice when playing for the folds, when you're out of position, just make your squeezes and your 3-bets oversized, even versus these small raises. For example, if I'm in the small blind and the big blind opens to 2.5x, very rare I go less than 10. Very rare, unless you have like a short stack size. If it's a fish with a short stack and I've got a premium hand, so say the fish opens a button for 2.5x and he's got 48 blinds and I've got 2 aces, well then I'm not going to 4x him because we don't need to do that. My hand needs way less protection, we don't want him to fold, and we don't need to make it as big pre-flop to make sure all the money goes in post-flop. But if I'm in the same situation against somebody and we are 100 blinds deep or more, and I think it's maybe a regular, then I'll just go to my 10 or 11x, and it seems too big, but most of the time you're wanting folds, so you get them. If people outfold into them, then you're getting value with your aces. I just think people 3-bet way too small, particularly out of position, and it ends up putting them in situations post-flop that maybe they don't have the skills to deal with. So yeah, anyway, that's my point on upsizing 3-bets and squeezes from the blinds. I wouldn't mind if we've gone even like a tiny bit bigger here. There's already like 65 in the pot. So if they'd gone a tiny bit bigger, I wouldn't mind too much. There's already 6.5 blinds in there. Anyway, we do the squeeze. We get through under the gun, which is always nice. And then this dude calls. We flop. Second pair here with the backdoor flush draw, backdoor straight draw. I think this is a super, super mandatory check. He just isn't going to fold a better hand, and the board's so dry. We're going to get value from worse. Even if we like bet here for like 1/3 pot, 1/4 pot, somewhere around $1 or something, and he calls, we're going to have to check nearly every turn. Maybe don't check a 10, maybe don't check a queen, maybe don't check a heart. But I mean, lots of turns, maybe not every turn then. But we're going to have to check on at least like 60% of turns, and then if he bets, we're just going to lose the pot most of the time. I think it's a good hand to check and certainly call a bet with, and maybe our opponent stabs with worse sometimes. Maybe like he has a hand like pocket nines and he just decides, well, he's checked, I'm just going to bet and try and pick up the pot or what have you. So yeah, I think it's a super standard check. Probably call. We do check. Our opponent checks through. Turn to 5. Again, for the same reasons as the flop. Not really too much sense in betting here. I think we have like maybe a 1-street hand at best. Where we can maybe think about just putting a really small bet on the river to get value from all these under pairs, possibly. If he doesn't bet here, if he does bet here, then I think we have to call because our hand is going to be like signal. It looks like we've got nothing. We've checked twice. Looks like we have completely nothing. So I think we have to call when we have second pair. If we do check any bets, we checks through again. River is another king, which is pretty good for us because it obviously reduces the number of kings that you can have. I think we probably should bet now for value from like pocket 8s, pocket 9s, maybe pocket jacks, 7x if he's got like 7-8 suited, that type of thing. Let's see what's a bet here and bet like a, I don't know, as little as 80. Let's bet like quarter pot, 80, anything 80 to 120 I'm on board with. There, edgy. I think we need to bet there for sure. It's a bad check. I mean, I'm on board with my first 2 checks, not really on board with this one. I think we should definitely bet here, but bet small. And our opponent checks back, which means we win. And he had deuces, and maybe he doesn't call with deuces, but I'm not happy with that. I think we need to bet that river, but like bet it really small. 1/4, 1/3, quarter or third pot at the maximum. Ace jack suited here, we have a potential fish opening, so we elect to 3-bet with ace jack suited. This isn't a mandatory 3-bet for me. Sometimes I can call, sometimes I can 3-bet. If I think I'm up against a fish, I'm way more likely to 3-bet for value. If I'm up against a regular with fish behind, I'm way more likely to call. If I'm up against a regular with other good regulars behind, then I'm more likely to 3-bet. That's kind of how I would decide whether to 3-bet or call here. Usually just calling when there's still fish to whack behind me. Otherwise, 3-betting if there's regulars behind, or 3-betting if we just want to get heads up against a fish. And opponent calls. We flop a top pair. He checks. There's the fish here. I can go with a bet, but I think checking back's fine too. If they are in there with kind of medium pocket pairs or what have you, they're drawing close to dead. Yeah, he can have some worse ace. If we had ace king here, it'd be mandatory. Ace queen would be mandatory. I think ace jack can fall back into a checking back range with a view to like betting 2 streets later in the hand. Odd pairs of 7. I think at this point, if he checks, we should be betting something around 80 cents, something like that. I didn't know anything about this player whatsoever. But I think we can like bet 80 cents and then like bet 130 or something on the river here and sometimes get heroed. I wouldn't hate another check back because again the board is so dry. We have, depending on how sticky our opponent is, if he's really sticky we have a 2-street hand. If he's not that sticky we have like a 1-street hand. Didn't know much about him. I think checking back is going to be okay here, but I'd much prefer to see myself bet something like 8 blinds. He checks. Check back. I think that's a little bit weak by me. River's deuce. He checks. Now we definitely need to bet. It's just so unlikely he has us beat here now, and just like try and get value from like all his one pair stuff. And I'd like to see if I go relatively big here now, like 150 or so. Wouldn't like to see if I go much smaller than that. 176. Happy with that bet. I mean, if he does have any pair, he might just call here, not putting us on the ace. He does call, so that seems like a good result. Oh yeah, I remember now. Yeah, ace king. So yeah, then this time could have gone down a lot worse. We could have lost a lot more money here. I'm not really sure what our opponents do we not betting turn or river. I get he maybe could 4-bet pre. I don't hate that he didn't. He could 4-bet pre. He hasn't chose to. Once we check back that flop, he should probably just be like bet turn, bet river. He hasn't. He's done a good job of like disguising his hand, but it's probably cost him money. Our check back saved us money here, but that doesn't necessarily mean to say I like the check back more because of that. Still think we should have gone small turn river here, but in this instance it saved us money, and I guess it just goes to show how fucking passive and trappy these games are sometimes. So moving on to the last hand. We have a king and a queen, the big blind. Right, what do we do here? We have fish, not sure, not sure, not sure. If this dude had more money, I'd be happy to put a decent size squeeze in here to like 20 blinds, so like that 20, 21 blinds. But if we do that and he jams for like 30 blinds more, then we're going to be in a really crummy spot where we have to call it off pre with king queen off, or maybe I'll just like fold a bunch of equity. I don't like it either. I think if he had more money, squeezing's very appropriate. He doesn't know, so I think we just come along for a call here and see what happens. We flop top pair in a multi-way pot with like a plethora of draws out there. Like every draw known to man. It's a situation where you're like, oh yeah, top pair. Then you start thinking, well, if this pot starts getting really big multi-way, just how much are we going to like our top pair? These are my thoughts when I get in these situations. I think it's good to be paranoid sometimes in poker. So we certainly don't have a lead situation here. We just check and see what happens. If it really kicks off behind us with bets and raises, then we have a pretty easy fold. So this dude bets into 4 opponents. This dude calls. 2 folds. It's back on us. So what do you think? What do you think? Do we call here and then like just... I think it's a stretch to expect it's going to like get to a cheap showdown. So I think at this point we need to decide, like, are we willing to like go with our hand against dead pickstore and like try and not lose too much to front 2 if 2 starts, like if he starts like putting extra money in on future streets, or do we just say, you know what, let's fold now and let the hand play out? We've got top pair, top kicker with some reasonable backdoors, but we're out of position in a multi-way pot where the pre-flop raiser is betting to 4 opponents. I think it's a stretch to think we have the best hand here. I really do. We're behind to aces, we're behind to kings, we're behind to ace queen, we're behind to sets. We're not doing well against draws. And then you've also got this other dude, this fun. So against his range, we're not doing that great, and then he's come along too. It's going to further hurt our equity. And I remember this hand now, and I just folded. I was like, you know what, we might have the best hand here, but it's, you know, this. I mean, if this guy's a fish and just mashing buttons, then who knows? But if he's playing anything close to sensibly, he's betting to 4 people. He's going to be pretty. He's going to represent a very strong range, and he's just called. So, and you know, I think this guy up here is pretty likely to have draws most of the time. Maybe a top pair. Mostly draws. This guy overpairs and maybe some like pretty strong draws, and he can obviously have sets too. This guy can probably have sets, but I would imagine if this guy had a set, he would just raise on this flop on this board texture. So I think this guy's likely to have probably draws. This guy's got the strongest range. I don't think king queen does very well against them combined, and I just made, you know, a pretty conservative fold. Ace on the turn. This guy now checks, which makes me think, not really that sure what he's got here. Maybe he's still got a relatively strong hand that's just scared of the flush, but I don't know, maybe he's got, who knows what, Queen Jack or something like that, maybe, I'm not sure. With this Ace of Hearts, he obviously some of his flushes get there, well, all of his flushes get there, of course, and he can still have some other stuff. He checks through, so whatever. 8 on the river. Our villain now bets again. When he takes this line, I'm very comfortable now. I'm glad that I've folded my king queen, because we're not gonna have had the best hand very often. And then he raises, so now we're like super confident in our flop fold. And yeah, we were crushed on the flop. This guy had a set. This guy had top 2. We were virtually drawing dead with our top pair on the flop. So yeah, I think we'll put that hand in just to demonstrate how, even if we have top pair in multi-way pots out of position, I'm not saying it's worthless, but if you get too sticky with it and chips start going in on multiple streets, then you're going to have the worst of it more often than not. And quite often, and we talked about it in a previous video, I think one of my, I'm not saying it's a skill, but one of the things that helps me like protect my win rate and have a good win rate and not lose too many big pots. I'm probably one of the regulars that gets all in and plays massive pots less than most others. I'm very much a pinch hitter. I'm a small, old-fashioned small ball type player to an extent. I'm not that into playing like really big pots with marginal hands, and I think it's a strength, not a weakness. Yeah, do I overfold? Probably. But in these games, again, I think leaning towards like overfolding versus people who don't bluff enough is a good strategy to take. And yeah, this is a good example of, I think, what I do better than most people. I have a top pair on the flop, but I'm going to be out of position, and I start looking forward thinking, well, this is going to get pretty dicey. We're either going to win a small pot here or lose a big one. And I'm quite good at just getting away when I identify those situations, and I think I'm a lot better at it than most of my peers. So yeah, it's something to consider when you do flop top pair in a multi-way pot. If there's like more than one player stays in the pot, then maybe you might want to think about making some pretty tight folds. So yeah, there you go. There's a hand we've looked at. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. Sorry to the guys who have been enjoying the Sky content. They've been getting some really good feedback. I'm disappointed to have to stop doing it, but it's not really in my control. Sky threatened to close my account if I continue doing it. Obviously, I don't want to risk getting my account closed with funds in it, so for the time being, we're not bothering with Sky. We're having a bit of a falling out with them. Hopefully it'll resolve itself. Please go along and support me in that thread if you'd like to. But yeah, we're going to be doing some Triple Eight for a little while and just see what pans out. Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend, and we'll catch up again soon. Bye-bye for now.